Tested.
Hey guys, I'm Will from Tested.
I'm Norm from Tested.
And I'm Jeff Gersten from GiantBomb.com.
Yeah, so we're here today to build Jeff's new PC.
Yeah.
Why did you need a new PC, Jeff?
It was time, man. It's like we're at that point in the cycle where, you know, things have stretched out on consoles past the 5-year mark.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that stuff's starting to look a little old.
The 360 is looking pretty old.
Yeah, you look at some of the stuff that's coming out. Battlefield 3, for example. And I just got back from seeing Guild Wars 2.
Okay.
And was very excited about that. And you know, the PC I have at home, it's fine.
What do you get at home?
Yeah.
Oh, what is it? It's a quad core. God, it's old.
It's a Core 2 quad, you said?
Yeah, it's Core 2 quad.
Like a 6600 or something like that?
Yes. Yes, it is in fact a 6600.
Okay.
So I'm like a Conroe system, first-gen core processor.
Yeah.
Probably a GTX 260 or 280 or something like that?
It's a 260 in there that I just kind of bought. I needed a video card that day because my last one pretty much crapped out. So I'm like, okay.
that happens.
So I actually had to go to retail and buy a video card.
Now, it's not a bad system. Like, it still works.
Right. It still is totally functional.
And you can play games like StarCraft, you can do Team Fortress.
Yeah. A lot of stuff runs fine on it, but you can kind of see that it's. I'm not getting full frame rate when I pump the resolution all the way up. So.
And you're looking to build a system that can play games coming out this holiday.
I want something crazy.
Right, and you want to be able to
reasonable.
Yeah, but at the same time, so actually, I wanted something crazy. I came to you guys and said, I'm looking to spend like $3 grand on a computer because in my, you know, every time I've went out and either just bought a pre-assembled computer or something like that, it was always about $3 grand to make like that big leap.
That used to be what it cost.
Yeah, and then you'd spend like the next 6 years just kind of parting it out, like, oh, my motherboard blew out because the power here sucks. And,
in my head, I'm thinking, oh, that's a $1,500 I can pocket, and $1,500 get you a good PC.
Yeah, no, but instead I'm going to spend that money on a much better monitor.
Oh, beautiful. So you're going to get a big, like, 27-inch panel is the thought. So we want to build, so what we have here is a machine, well, the parts for a machine, that will be able to drive your big, giant 27-inch monitor with a 2560 by 1440 or whatever that, it's a weird resolution.
Those are big numbers.
It's a lot of pixels.
Yeah.
So you need kind of a pretty good machine. But what we're doing is you're going to put a little bit of money in your pocket so that a year down the line you can put a new video card in, something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, you figure like by the end of the year when stuff like Battlefield's actually coming out, like there'll probably be a wave of video cards that will have hit. That will be
or you could go SLI. You can go dual video cards.
Okay. Yeah. There's all sorts of options. We'll explore that sometime in the future. But now, let's talk about what's going into this machine.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing is the CPU. It's the Core i5 2600K? 2500K is what we went with, yeah. And you can see the box here. The CPU is actually, oh my God, where's the CPU? No, it's right here.
I ran away with it. I sold it.
Just kidding, yeah. It's sold on the black market. There's the CPU. We chose that because it's Sandy Bridge. They're really fast. They're almost as fast as the hexa-core 1366 processors, the big i7s.
So yeah, let's talk about the 2500K for a second. Intel in January launched Sandy Bridge. They came out with 14 CPUs, and
it's the worst code name for a CPU ever.
It really is. Yeah. And the numbering system's kind of weird.
Why can't we just call these like Pentium 7s?
Oh man, Pentium 7, that was like 5 years ago.
Or get to some Pentium and a number.
We're out of Pentiums. We're in Core. Not even Core. We're second generation Core, which is really like fourth generation Core.
The CPU names don't make any sense, and also, where's the big cartridge? I like my CPUs to be big black plastic.
Do you have to blow it before you send that?
The brace inside,
push it down.
Do you ever buy a mail order PC back then when you get in the mail and like the CPU would just be rattling around inside?
Oh no, I only bought one or two mail order PCs. And they both showed up okay. I got a Gateway in 1993. It was my first
Gateway
PC.
2000.
Yeah. When I got away from the Amiga and got myself a Cowbox 4666.
One step above E-machines.
It was a Doom machine.
It was pre-E-machine. So
okay, so dual channel memory on this, not triple channel.
Yep, and this actually, so this isn't the highest end Sandy Bridge processor you can get. This is actually probably the third one. There's the 2600K, 2600, then the 2500K. But it is the best sweet spot right now for price and performance.
Yeah, this is like $230.
At most, $230.
Crazy cheap.
So there's a K modifier at the end. So we'll break it down. It's Intel Core architecture i5. And then 2500K. The 2500 means the second generation.
It means it's faster than the 2300 and slower than the 2600?
Yep, and then the 500 is the model, and then K means that the multiplier is unlocked.
So we talked about this the other day.
Yeah. That means you can make adjustments to the voltage and overclock it if you want to get crazy.
So overclocking with Sandy Bridge is a little different from overclocking with like Nehalem. The base clock is actually tied to the chipset, so you can't just up the clock. It's all about the multiplier and voltage. And because this is the K version, you can actually the multiplier is pretty much unlocked all the way to 50 something.
So the non-K versions you can't overclock.
You can overclock. You can use turbo for a bit, but you can't really get as high.
That's just the button on the front of the case, whether you want
turbo,
exactly. 66 or 33.
Double the RAM.
What do I want?
Yeah, right. That's right.
Yeah. Not at all.
So this is at 3.3 gigahertz. Which is plenty fast, and even on the stock cooler, we're just going to use a stock cooler today. You can get up to like 4 gigahertz, no problem. On air.
All right, dude.
If you want to.
If you want to live on the edge, if you want to just play it safe.
Like, how dangerous is overclocking these days?
Not very.
Not dangerous. As long as the cooler is properly installed, as long as you have the right thermal paste on it, which is very simple with the stock cooler, you can get up to 4 gigahertz, no problem.
The only place you can fry stuff is if you overvolt too much. If you're just running more or less stock voltage, bump it up a little bit. Even if it overheats, the CPU will actually clock down before it damages.
And that's why. And that's why you want to get a motherboard with a good voltage regulator and good.
So let's talk about motherboard next. This guy right here.
Do we have a good motherboard?
We have a good motherboard.
So, Sandy Bridge actually, even though it launched in January, the motherboards went off sale and CPUs went off sale for a while because there was actually a defect with the chipset that Intel came out with. This is using the P67 chipset. They came out with the P67 and the H67. We got you the new motherboard revision, so it's the B3 stepping. If you're buying a Sandy Bridge processor, you want to make sure, and actually we can show you the box.
And just to be clear, the thing that's broken on these is that the third and fourth and any subsequent SATA ports would lose performance over time. The first two always have been fine. So if you have one of these P67 boards, even if it's the bad revision, as long as you only have 2 devices plugged into it,
it's not
going to be a problem.
But at the same time, you probably want as much as you can get. You're going to want to take advantage.
I mean, if you're
of that
buying a
recall.
new machine today, take advantage of the recall for sure. If you're buying a machine today, make sure you get the appropriate revision.
Yep.
Now, are the bad revisions still out there, or do they?
I think they're all gone.
They're all
okay,
recalled.
So it'd be pretty hard to find.
I mean, maybe some little screwdriver shops places.
Exactly.
So that's the motherboard.
Well, the motherboard also, I mean, we chose an ASUS motherboard because they're generally reliable, and also they have really neat features with the front panel connectors. It makes it super easy to build in. I always love building.
And is this one of the UEFI boards that uses the new BIOS replacement?
I think this one is actually. Within this line, the P67 line, you have the regular, the Pro, and the Deluxe version. A lot of people have questions of which one to buy. We chose the Pro because we think that is the sweet point. The regular version that's not Pro, I think, is $20 cheaper. If you want to move to the Deluxe, it's $25 more. All you really get with the Deluxe is one extra Ethernet port. So you have one here,
two
you get
Ethernet
Ethernet ports, so you're
not going to
doing crazy networking. And the voltage regulator is a little better for overclocking, but since you're not going to go crazy over 5 gigahertz, this is more than fine. And there's USB 3 in here, but you don't get a front panel box connector. That's getting a Deluxe, but you don't need that. You have USB 3 in the back. You'll be
and we have a lot of extra ports too. Okay, so motherboard. What's up on the video card front, Norm?
So the video card is arguably like the hardest thing. Like, it's a no-brainer to get the Sandy Bridge 2500K. No-brainer to get the motherboard. Maybe slight variants, but the video card you could really whatever your budget is.
Just like staring at
there's hundreds
numbers and just going.
So we didn't actually get you the sweet point video card. We got you the better.
Even better.
One notch up.
Spend a little bit more money.
It's a little ridiculous, though.
So we got you the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 570, which is a second generation Fermi card.
Okay.
Let's take this out of the packaging.
This one's a little bit ridiculous.
It looks gigantic.
It is.
It's the biggest video card I've ever seen. From a wideness standpoint.
Let's show this video card.
It's got these massive heat pipes and thermal. I don't know if you can show the edge, but I mean, it's got a giant, thick cooling block in there, and then that has heat pipes that come out of that, and that goes to radiators. I don't know that a 3-slot video card is necessary, but you talked about one in a quiet machine.
Yes. So ideally, like a nice quiet, because this is actually going to be pretty close to where I sleep.
Yeah.
So if I can quiet
like under your pillow,
a little bit,
or a little further away than that.
Yeah, a little bit further away. Not too much further though.
So ASUS actually has 2 versions of the GTX 570. There's one that's a 2-slot version, and one's a 3-slot version. They're at price very similar. They're about $350. You can actually get a GTX 570 not from ASUS, from another maker, with a rebate for like $320 right now, which I think is a really, really good price.
That seems completely reasonable.
It is completely reasonable when you're talking about, like, this is one level down from the high end, the 580, and those cards used to launch at $500.
Right. Well, and there's not that much of a performance difference between the 570 and 580.
And you can overclock this one as well with Entune. So the sweet point card that I mentioned earlier is actually the NVIDIA GTX 560 Ti. And that is the upgrade. It's pretty much a clocked higher version from the 460. You get fewer of the stream processors, the compute processors, but that is only like $250. If you just want to spend $250, $260, get the 560 Ti. You'll be very happy. But for Jeff, I think if you want to make this last and you want to play on a 2560 by 1440 resolution monitor, the 570 is the best place to go.
And the nice thing about this is it has all the connector options. So you have 2 DVIs, HDMI, and DisplayPort. So no matter what you're going to hook this up to over the next 3 or 4 years,
it'll be fine.
You'll be good.
Yeah, and a lot of people might be asking, you know, what about AMD? AMD has some really good video cards out this generation. If you want to buy an AMD card, go with the 6950. That is,
and that's one notch down
that
from
is
their
pretty much,
fastest single GPU card.
That is
as well.
slower, yeah. So the 6970, which is their fastest single GPU card, is about the equivalent of the 570. 570 does beat it a little bit. The sweet point card for AMD is the 6950.
Is it bad that I will probably never become comfortable calling ATI AMD?
I'm comfortable with that.
You guys just come to terms with it and everything?
Yeah, you got to come to terms. It's all red. ATI was red, and AMD is red.
That's true.
So NVIDIA's kind of claimed that green.
Yeah.
Green
well,
color
Intel's
scheme.
blue. So that's the 3. Okay, let's run through storage real quick, and then let's start building this thing. We've been talking about this forever, it seems like. Storage, we have a 2 terabyte Western Digital Black hard drive. This is a fantastic, very fast, big cache. I mean, basically with a traditional hard drive, we talked about going SSD for your machine.
Yeah.
That's one of the questions everybody always asks.
Right. And it's something I'm definitely interested in, but I just don't feel like the size is there yet. Well, for the way I use a PC, which is installing a ton of, like, I'm producing music a lot, so there are just gigs and gigs of things that
you want to just be able to load a bunch of stuff on here and never think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thinking sucks.
SSDs are not good for that, but a hard drive is awesome for that.
Right.
I mean, this is 2 terabytes. My first hard drive was 80 megabytes. I mean,
and the prices for hard drives, especially the 2 terabyte drives, have gone down so much. I mean, you're talking about under, what is it, $1 per 10 gig, right?
Yeah, math is hard.
I think
it turns out, but yeah, it's I mean, basically, where an SSD costs you $1 per gigabyte on the best of days with a cheap SSD, or more likely 2 per gigabyte for an actual good SSD. This is actually, for half the price you'll pay for a 256 gigabyte SSD, you can get 2 terabytes of storage.
When do you think SSDs will get to that point where they're sort of the no-brainer, like you have to have one, like it's crazy that you don't? Do you think, like, I mean...
Well, it's happening now. I mean, prices are going down, new controllers are coming out, the price of flash is getting down, although with the Japan earthquake, there's always a question of how that's going to impact flash memory prices over the next couple of years. And, I mean, that could actually cause the price of SSDs to go back up again.
I would say if I wanted to use an SSD as a primary drive, I would want something bigger than at least 250
256
gig.
is
256,
the
like 100.
Is this the biggest now?
Or is the smallest you would want to use?
Oh, right,
small, like 128 gig for your primary. While it's going to fit Windows and most of your applications, you're going to feel crammed for space. Your desktop is going to feel really crammed. So at this point, recommend the 2 gigabyte black version of this drive.
Not green.
Not the green one. If you want to get a green one as a backup additional storage drive, that's fine.
If you need more than 2 terabytes.
The main difference there is that the greens are 54 and these are 72.
Greens are a little faster.
59.
59,
right. What people say
but this is full 72 100 RPM with plenty of cache, and you can partition it if you feel like you want to split this in a storage one and a primary drive.
I recommend against partitioning with Windows 7.
And I went the other route by just getting 2 of those.
Yeah. So we didn't include 2 in the price. We're going to put 2 in the machine today.
Right.
Just for you.
Yes. Yeah. 2 terabytes is not enough for my lifestyle.
All right. Yeah, so this is exactly a $1,500 machine. Here is the DVD-ROM drive. We don't have to talk about it all. We talked about going Blu-ray, decided it wasn't even worth the cost of a Blu-ray reader.
Yeah.
This is a Samsung SH223. It's or S223 rather. This is basically it's just a good optical drive. The only hitch is if you want to do video rips, you need to go to the CD Freaks forum for this drive and actually download a hacked firmware. This sounds a little crazy for your optical drive.
Yeah.
But that will let you read DVD-ROM drives, like ripping video DVDs, at a much, much higher speed than it will by default because it has some anti-copying bullshit in there.
That's okay.
So
well,
super lame.
That's good to know. Actually, my current machine, I do have region-free firmware flashed to it right now.
You can do the same thing with
this.
this.
So I went through that whole process and actually fried the drive the first time and bombed out midway through the firmware update.
Were you able to recover?
No, I recovered by taking that thing and throwing it in my backyard.
Seems like a good move.
And then a replacement, like OEM drive, was like $25.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is it?
So optical drive, even though it's $20, I don't know if this might be the last year that we might be building systems with optical drives.
I think that's possible. Yeah.
I mean, by the time Windows 8 comes out, I mean, I'd be amazed if Microsoft did not have a like a USB version that you could buy or just a download.
But are they really going to be shipping games on? I mean,
Steam.
Obviously Steam is huge, but
there
are still plenty of people out there looking to get things at retail.
But when you look at retail boxes, a lot of I think in the PC community that's a little less common, as evidenced by the sales numbers.
Sure.
But also with the PC, a lot of times those copies that you buy at retail are just basically a CD with a Steam code in there, and you type it in. Definitely. You can just download it.
But for legacy stuff, if you want to play Battlefield 2, right, you want to put that. You need a DVD drive to pop that in.
So 2 more components. Well, 3 more components because we haven't talked about memory yet. Memory is really easy. We just have a couple of sticks of Corsair DDR3 here.
Again, memory is so cheap these days.
$87 for 8 gigs.
Yeah,
I think.
we've got 8 gigs.
You know what? You sent me the list, and I just went to Amazon. Actually, I didn't even
95.
shop around most of the time. I just clicked the buttons on everything.
Yeah. So
to make it
now
all
this
show
isn't
up.
the lowest latency memory that you can get, but because again you're not going to be doing too much overclocking.
Right.
You know, the Corsair is reliable, crucial. You know, most of the Patriot.
I mean, you just want somebody with a good warranty,
Yep.
and don't buy cheap generic memory. And if you're putting in pairs, as you have to do with most modern systems, or even in trios, you want to buy matched pairs with the same latency, same voltages, and same clock speed.
And it says the motherboard has 4 slots for RAM.
4 slots, but we're only
so
going to use
if I wanted to go further,
you could probably go up to
plenty
16.
of room.
Probably 16 is that. Yeah. Last couple of things we have in a velvet bag. I've never seen this before.
It's like Crown Royal.
Yeah, I know. It's like the fanciest of kind of not awesome scotches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it comes in a fancy bag.
Yeah. Well, you can put your change in there. This is an 850 watt Corsair power supply. It's modular. Excuse me. So you can plug in as many or as few cables as you want. For a while, that was kind of a no-no. Like I didn't like those when they first came out. The quality seems to be coming up some. If you're doing crazy high overclocking, again, it's something you want to avoid. But for what we're building here, modular is just fine. It's really easy to use. The important thing to do, though, is to make sure you keep that little bag. I'm going to reach down and grab the little bag. Because this has all the cables in it. And if you lose this, you're totally boned. So, yeah. Just make sure when you take cables off and put them someplace. And like I keep the box that the case came in, just so when I move or need to haul the machine someplace, I have a good way to pack it. And I would just chuck these in there, so you have them handy all the time.
I have just a bin somewhere full of old video cards and hard drives that
I
I
have
don't
one
know
of
what's
those
on them
too.
anymore. It's just like here's a bunch of screws and
Yeah.
hard drive brackets.
Here's a bunch of parallel cable hard drives that I don't think I can plug
I think
into
if I
my
wanted to
motherboards
build
anymore.
like a 486 DX4 100, I think I have all the parts.
You can play the hell out of Doom on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
last thing is the case.
we chose 850 watts. I mean,
It's
you don't
overkill.
need. It is definitely overkill.
Yeah.
You don't need 850 watts.
Is it? Because I was going to say, like, 850 seems like a low number. It seems like the last time I did this, like, people were like, you need 1,400 watt. Like the wattage seemed to be going crazy.
A 1,000 watt power supply is like 3 times expensive as this one.
Wow.
So you don't really need. Definitely
It's
don't
not
go
that
1,000
much more,
But
yeah.
650 you can get by if you don't plan on doing too many upgrades. This video card does require an 8-pin and a 6-pin. If you're going with like the 560 Ti, 650 watts with 1 hard drive, no problem. You can even pop in a second video card as long as there are enough PCI power connectors.
Basically, this gives him the option of adding a second video card in without having to switch
And also, if you're doing a lot of storage,
yeah, if I want to throw in like 2 more hard drives or something like that,
this
like
is
not an issue.
you're going to be very comfortable. And one of the things that when you came to us for picking out the parts is you wanted a PC that would be relatively quiet. And so, you know, this one has a pretty big fan at the inside. You know, this video card is going to be very cool and quiet. And let's get to the case.
Well, cool. Okay, so while Norm's getting the case up on the table, I'm going to call out the phone number. If you have questions, you can call us. The number is 415-508-3972. 3975. Not the first look at the Zoom.
That's the phone number. Just hit us up at first look at the Zoom.
Tested.com. Or you can Skype us at Whiskey Media.
Yes.
Oh, it seems like Chloe is excited to be here today. What else have we? Oh, so this is the case.
Yeah.
This is the fractal design. I think it's the S3, right?
It says in the box.
R3 or S3? I can't remember.
I want to say it was R3.
R3. It's the R3. This is brand new. Like this was something that literally came into Newegg the day before you ordered it.
Yeah, you said here's the case to get for the build, and I went to Newegg and placed the order, and then I got a press release like 4 hours later saying, hey, this case is now available. And I went, oh man, I'm living on the cutting edge of cases, and that's pretty exciting. Also, smaller than my current case.
Well, it is because you have one of those big old XPSs,
Dell XPS
right?
cases that will light up in the front and the back if you want, which is
That's
really
a
nice.
Yeah, especially right next to your bed.
Yeah.
Taking out the side panel, if you want to show, there is lining padding?
Yeah, it's a noise canceling thing. So you said you wanted a quiet machine. This case has all the kind of modern features that if you haven't built a machine in a few years, you're going to be stunned. It has built-in padding. It has noise dampening stuff all through. It has this guy right here. I don't know if you can see this on the inside, but this is actually a thing that will let you change your CPU cooler with the without having to take the motherboard out of the case.
Nice.
So if you decide that you want a quieter cooler than the stock Intel one, which is what we're going to use today, normally you'd have to disassemble the whole machine, take the motherboard out of the case.
Right.
That is a huge pain in the ass just to put a bracket on the back of the motherboard.
Yeah.
With this, you can just take both sides off the case. It takes like 2 minutes. It's a piece of cake.
Yeah. And also perfect for you. Plenty of internal drive bays and just 2 of the 5.5-inch because you're only going to use it for this.
And our friends at Max PC swore up and down that it would fit a 10-inch video card. So we'll find out about that in a little bit.
Pin it on them if it goes well.
Did you see what I did there?
Yeah, nice work.
Yeah.
So let's get to building.
Okay. So hey, we have our first call while I get the machine set up. I think we have Marcus or Mark from Sweden. Marcus from Sweden. Marcus, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Marcus, how you doing?
Just fine.
What's your question, sir?
Jeff, I'm wondering which games are you building this PC in anticipation of?
Well, I think it's.
Thanks for the question.
Thanks for your call.
Thanks for the call, Marcus. I mean, it's some of the stuff that they've been showing off recently. Like I just got back from Boston where I got a look at Guild Wars 2. I thought that looked very nice, and that's a game I'm definitely going to be interested in playing. Battlefield 3. I mean, obviously they're putting it out on consoles, but it's not going to be the same thing. And they're going so much further with what they've been showing on the PC version so far. That definitely seems like the one to play. But I just kind of. It felt right. It felt like the right time to upgrade for me.
Your gut was right. It is the right time.
There's a lot of, like I said, I do a fair amount of music production on. I will be doing a fair amount of music production on this PC and speeding up that process a little bit. Rendering stuff out and being able to have more effects loaded and just without it crapping out will be nice.
Well, and the thing that I've always said about PC building is the time to build a new PC isn't when, don't base it on hardware cycles and all that stuff, but when your old PC isn't fast enough anymore and doesn't do what you need it to do, that's the time to upgrade.
Some of that zip.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could have just probably wiped it and reinstalled it. And just
no, it's actually like a pretty fresh install of Windows 7.
You reached that point.
Yeah, I've already been through that.
It's become a mom computer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd already opened it up and thrown new stuff in it a couple of times, upgraded the video card, replaced some hard drives, stuff like that.
Well, at some point,
kind of boring.
Yeah. At some point, you need a new motherboard, new memory, new CPU. These will last you for a long time.
Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to do is put the CPU in the case, in the motherboard. Yep. So if you see here, the way you do this, it's really easy.
Now notice that Will has the motherboard.
Yeah,
he's putting on top of the motherboard case right now. You can, if there's like foam padding, you can use on top. You can put on top of the pad. He's also used the motherboard,
the
anti-static bag as just a platform.
Well, and that'll keep you from accidentally shorting anything out. We're working on a metal table here, which isn't the best way to do this, but it does make it nice. Well, and it makes it easy for us to keep everything grounded. So all I have to do to keep grounded is just keep touching the table.
No need for wrist straps.
No need for goofy wrist straps or any kind of stuff like that. And I mean, honestly, I've been doing this for a long time. I have yet to kill anything with ESD. And I say that knowing that I have your hardware in my hand right now. So, the first thing you do is you need to take the CPU bracket off. And this is a little different than the one on the 1366 boards or AMD if you've only built AMD machines in the past. But basically it has this little guard on top of it by default. Yep. And then the pins...
Keep the guard.
Oh yeah, keep the guard.
Always keep the guard. You want to keep this because if you ever have to RMA your motherboard, you'll need to put this guard back on top of the socket before you return it.
Before you ship it.
Yeah, keep that.
Okay, so the pins are on the socket. So it's really important that you don't put this down there and then wiggle it around, because if you bend these pins, you are basically completely fucked.
This seems a little intense.
This is
compared to the big black cartridge, what goes in like this and clamps down like RAM.
There's a lot of exposed contacts right now.
This is the big opportunity for failure. So the important thing to look at,
you don't want to be spitting in there.
There's a couple of different things. Oh man, too late. There's a couple of notches on the side of the CPU, and I don't know if you can get that where they can see it, Norm.
Yep.
But then there's a couple of notches on the side of the socket, and you want to make sure that those line up. It only goes in one way.
So there are two ways you can
look at the corners.
Look at the corners. There's also a gold triangle on the bottom corner back on the CPU. If you can get a quick shot of that. There's a gold triangle and also two notches which are not at the center. They're raised up about 3/4 of the way. So use those to align on the socket. And if you look back at the socket, you'll see there are two notches right there and in that bottom corner, also a triangle.
Right. The other thing is, you want to look at the top and the bottom of the socket. If the two notches are on the side, you hold the CPU on the faces that don't have the notches, so that your finger will slot down into the gap, and you can line it up.
So to drop it, you just literally
just get it real
close, and then just drop it in. There you go.
Yeah, except for you're not on.
Drop it in. There you go.
There you go, like that. Then put the socket back down, the cover back down. Push it into place.
You might
it'll
just
latch
apply
back
just
in.
a little bit of pressure when you put that in.
Yeah.
You're not going to be cracking anything.
Right.
That's just to lock that in.
There's only a few places that you have to apply any real force when you're putting the machine together. That's one of them. It's still not very much force. It's I mean, it's less than, say, pulling back a pinball machine handle or something like that.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
The other place that you do have to apply some force is when you put the memory in.
So we're going to do that right now.
I feel like every time I have put RAM in a machine over like the last, let's say, 6-7 years, it has always felt like I'm so close to breaking it.
Yeah.
Like things are bending, and it's just like I'm not getting it in right,
Yeah.
and it.
No, this is
always
scary
a
part.
super frightening process.
Well, so there's two things that are important to remember with the memory. One is that you use the appropriate sockets, and I didn't actually look at the motherboard manual for this board to see which ones are the white ones.
It's the colored ones.
It's usually the blue ones, yeah.
The ones are different color.
That was racist,
That's racist.
but okay. The other thing is you want to make sure it goes in evenly, and you don't kind of push with too much force.
Yeah.
You don't want to tilt it, rock it back and forth. So what we're going to do here is, first, one other thing to mention on this case, you'll note that there's only clips on one side.
Yeah.
This
Some
side is
motherboards
just loose.
have clips on both sides,
Right, yes.
and both sides will snap in. Here it's just the one side. Again, put it straight in on the side that doesn't have the clip.
And look for your notch, so the notch lines up with the groove on the RAM.
Yeah, that's the only way that you could possibly put it in wrong, is if the notch doesn't line up, and it won't push in.
And then you push it in, and it clicks into place, and everything's grooved.
Once the notch clicks in, that's it.
See, for me, it's always been motherboard still in the case, and actually, last time I did it, I just yanked yanked it open, left it just up sideways, and just went.
I've done that before.
And just forced it
It's
in from the
scary.
side.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Did you have to reach around the back and like pull the whole case back?
Get a little case for get some pressure
the way
back
men
there
install
too.
RAM.
Exactly. Just slam it in there until it fits.
Okay.
The RAM is in.
The RAM is in the
super
machine.
simple. A lot of people actually, they put the RAM in after the motherboard is in the case. Putting it outside, it's so low profile, it's not going to block anything. I recommend doing it on the
and you
outside.
don't. It's not up on the pegs. So if you didn't put all the pegs in when you're putting the motherboard in the case, then you don't have a weird situation where the motherboard's warping or anything like that, which can actually cause problems.
Yep.
Do you want to go ahead and put the cooler in while we have it out and it's easy to get to? I mean, this is low enough profile. I think we can get it in without any problem.
Yeah. So again,
why not?
The cooler is one of those points where you can put it in either before the motherboard is in the case or after. Since it's low profile, it's not going to block the motherboard going in the case.
Yeah.
We can put it on, and again, using the stock cooler, it's super easy to apply.
So a couple of things to note here. See these gray things on the bottom of the cooler?
Yeah.
That's actually your thermal grease.
Oh.
So you used to have that little tube of stuff you squirt a pea-sized amount and
gross.
smear it around.
You felt like you were.
It's always too much or not enough.
Yeah.
This is a pre-applied. They put the gaps in so that it mashes out effectively. It's a 3M compound that's quite good, is what Intel uses on these stock coolers. AMD has something similar. Sometimes there'll be a little film that you have to peel off. So if there's a piece of plastic, you don't want to put the plastic between the CPU and the cooler.
Yeah, that would make for a bad smelling computer.
Right. They don't do that here. They just have this plastic. It's like a cooler guard that leaves it so you can't touch it. You don't want to touch it or smear it around or anything like that.
Okay.
So also, because it's already pre-applied, if you ever remove the cooler, if something's not happening, not right, you want to check the CPU, you will have to scrape it all off and reapply some third-party cooler or
Arctic Silver or whatever you want. Okay, so the way this works is you want to first off you want to see where your wire is, because you got to get that out. It's tangled up in the fans here, so you want to start it out up here, and you want to actually run this loose. You want to look on the board and see where the plug for that is. So on this board, it's right up here. And I think we probably have enough slack that we can just run it right up, but I think it's going to hit over here if we leave it all tied up in the hooks. Yeah. So I'm going to unhook this, and even if you run it with the fan, as long as it doesn't cut into the wire too much, it's not that big of a problem. It's not going to do any permanent damage, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. And there's a large market in aftermarket coolers. A lot of people sell these.
Are people still water cooling machines and doing?
Absolutely.
Is the LAN party PC still a thing of I'm gonna
totally
ridiculously
Yep.
cool this?
You can get a really good water cooling system from Danger Den or other makers. I actually like the self-contained water cooling units. So Corsair makes one.
Corsair Cooling,
but they all use, like, I think, from Acetec. And those are actually just the radiator and the block. It's all one unit. You don't have to change the water. You plug it in, apply it, super easy.
So now if you look at this board, I'm going to take my beard hair off here. There's actually 4 holes around the edge of the CPU. You can see them there. There's 4 pins on the bottom of the cooler. And you would just want to line those up. And you want to make sure that your cable, this guy right here, which you can't see because my hand's in the way, this cable has enough slack to reach the part on the board where you plug the fan in.
Clearly labeled CPU_fan. So on the stock cooler, and this is something I got confused about earlier, there's a lock and an unlock position for each of the corners. There's an arrow, if you can kind of see. I'm going to try to point it.
It ships locked.
There you go. So the arrow turns in the direction where it is unlocked.
Right? Yeah. To remove this cooler, you'll twist all 4 of these top things, and then
in the direction of the arrow.
Just pop out.
Yeah. So to lock it, you actually have to turn it the other way,
counter to
the arrow.
And you want to snap these down just like you do with a spare tire. You want to start in one corner and then work diagonally.
You hear the click?
You hear it click into place. Click, click, click,
click,
click-ish. Click.
There you go.
Yay! Everybody wins.
And if you look at the back, actually, if you
we can flip it over.
The motherboard, and you show the back, you can see that the clips are now through and popped out.
And what it is there's these little plastic pins that come up and they spread out the white snappy parts so that it just cinches it into place.
And that's what the locking process.
That's what the locking process
lets those pins come out. I don't have to get under it and squeeze these to get it out.
Only if things go bad.
Right.
Yeah. So the unlocking will pull that black part out, and then the translucent pins will close in.
Fit right through.
Okay, so I plugged in the fan. The motherboard's basically ready to go.
Yeah. That was the hardest part.
This is the scary thing.
All
right, thanks for watching.
Yes.
This has been...
We'll be back next week with the rest of the exciting conclusion of Jeff. No, here we go. I'm going to hand that to you for a second, Mr. Chan.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to bring the case up here.
So the Sandy Bridge design uses a 1155 socket, or the motherboard and the CPU. It's 1155 pins, which is different from Linfield and
which was
1156. 1156 and the first gen, which is 1366. If you're going to buy a third-party aftermarket cooler, you want to make sure that you have one that either fits the 1156 or 1155. 1156 and 1155 are compatible. For the holes on the motherboard, but a 1366 cooler will not fit.
Usually they have a different bracket though. Right. So you buy one cooler and it'll have like 4 brackets for even AM3 as well as the Intel stuff. So the next thing we're going to do is actually this guy right here. So this guy, do you know what this is, Jeff?
That's going to be the thing that fits over the back of the motherboard where all the ports are.
This is the thing that I always forget to put in until like I'm getting ready to power the machine. I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
So all you do to put this in, it goes in the back.
The I/O shield.
Yeah, it's the I/O shield, and basically what you do is you push this in. This one looks like it goes in from the inside. Usually they do.
They all usually go in from the inside. Make sure you pop out the one that's already on the case.
Yeah, this case doesn't have one,
which is
it's
fine.
Even smooth in there.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't push it too hard. It might not be that smooth, but my fingers aren't bleeding, so that's good. Basically, just line it up from the inside. You want to make sure that it's going to line up with the way the motherboard is. So in this case, the audio ports are on the right side. The keyboard and mouse, which I don't think you're ever going to plug anything into.
The PS2 ports?
They're on the other side. Yeah, the PS2 ports. Thanks.
How crazy is it that motherboards still have that on there?
Yeah. Thanks, IBM.
Remember the USB to PS2 adapters?
Right. Yeah.
Purple and green.
So these guys just snap in generally.
Again, one corner at a time. You don't necessarily need to do opposite corners, but you will hear the satisfying pop sound when the corners get popped in.
Yeah, and it's not a real strong pop. I mean, you just want it to be held in there, just so it doesn't flop around while you're trying to put the motherboard in. Because once you have the motherboard in place, it will actually hold that in place for you. So the next thing we're going to do is put the motherboard in. Yeah, so we can see what it looks like.
Right here on the product cam.
There we go.
Here you go. So each corner is popped in, and it cannot go out any further.
Yeah.
Some of them, depending on what motherboard you have, will have tabs.
Yeah,
on
you
the
want to fold those up.
You want to fold those up, otherwise the motherboard ports will push up against it, and the motherboard will not line up perfectly with the screws.
Well, guys, I feel like before we start putting too much stuff in this case, why don't we hear what the folks at home have to say?
We want to talk to Rob from London?
Let's talk to Rob from London.
Hey, Rob from London, how are you doing?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing great.
Great.
Basically, right, I've got a question. I'm a PS3 owner. I've had a PS3 for a while.
Okay.
And I've kind of used it as my only console to sort of play games on. I've been looking to get like an alternative, but I was thinking a PC or an Xbox. Xbox, it's getting on now. It's been around for a while, and you think I should switch to a PC with like games like Battlefield 3 coming out with like far superior graphics? What do you think?
Well, I think if you have a PS3, you already have most of the console games covered. I think the only reason
Halo and Gears.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason to own both is if you find yourself being a really big fan of the first-party stuff that doesn't appear on the PlayStation 3 already. So with the PC, you get access to basically a completely different market of games.
Yeah.
It's like all this great indie stuff that's coming out on Steam if you want to go for kind of smaller stuff. And then the big ticket items like your Battlefields and your MMOs.
And do you like surfing
sort of
the internet?
Right. Do you like the internet?
Yeah. Kind of need a PC for that.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other thing, of course, is that I don't remember what the other thing is now. I had something clever to say, I think, but it's gone. Thanks for your call, Rob.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Yeah. And also, PCs are yours, man.
Yeah.
No one's breathing down your neck telling you what to do.
You
with
can
it.
open this. Nobody's going to yell at you.
Whatever.
You
Or
build
we're
it
not
Looking
yourself.
for the IP addresses for people that opened up their PC.
Are they doing that
get,
now?
Or you get buddies to build them.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
Coworkers?
You can get your own personal PC building team to assemble it for you. It's great.
Yeah, for like $50, Norm will come to your house.
I'll lick things too.
Yeah, Norm licks all sorts of stuff. It's frankly kind of gross.
For $50?
Probably a bad idea to lick
He'll
the
lick it for
motherboard.
10. Okay, so first off, we got to put the motherboard stands in.
That's right.
This is something that I feel like shouldn't have to happen in the
yeah.
modern era.
This is giving me like really bad flashbacks because I lived at a place that didn't have super solid power.
Okay.
But I didn't realize that at the time. I had it plugged into a surge protector. But
Yeah.
basically, I blew out 3 or 4 motherboards over the course of about 6 to 8 months.
I'm going to tell you a story. Three letters that would have saved your life back then. UPS.
Yeah. So I eventually figured that out. Actually, it was when I moved to someplace that had even sketchier power. I went and got a UPS, and the problem was solved. And so I had to go through all these motherboard changes, and every single time I would get it all in, and it wouldn't be on the stands right, or it would be touching metal and be grounding out on the case.
And that's bad.
Oh,
there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong.
Yeah, it was a lot of like 22-year-old me like yanking hair out. Oh God, stupid computers!
That's not good. You don't want to do that.
No.
Yanking hair is never good.
No.
I used to live in a place that every time the elevator, somebody got in the elevator, my computer would crash.
Nice.
Yeah, 35 people lived in that building.
So for the motherboard
pretty
stands,
awesome.
the reason they're not already in the case, some cases will come with them built in, is because you have different size motherboards. So we're using a standard ATX motherboard, which
Is it 4 along the bottom?
It's actually 3.
3.
So here's the thing, with ATX motherboards, the configuration is still going to be different for each motherboard. That's why you got to look at the motherboard and count the number of screw holes there are total. It's usually in like a 9-grid alignment arrangement. So sometimes there's 10. On ours, there's just 9. We can look 1, 2, 3 in the top, 3 in the middle, 3 in the bottom, and then just get those in. If Will screwed in 10 and we put the motherboard in, there's a chance of shorting the bottom of the motherboard.
Can I see that for a sec? And it's not a bad idea to kind of line it up and eyeball it if you have questions about where the standoffs are going to be. Okay, I got it now.
Because they have plenty of holes in that side of the case to fit all these different motherboard types. It's probably pretty easy to put them in the wrong one.
There are
if
a
you're
lot of
not paying
holes.
attention.
Yeah, I mean, mostly it used to be for big, giant, huge motherboards,
Right.
because this is a micro ATX board, right? Motherboards used to be a lot bigger, but now they have boards that are crazy small and are like 3 inches by 3 inches. So
we should have just got one of those and just put it in this case.
That's
Mini
madness.
ITX.
Mini ITX.
We'll be doing that for
I think those are actually smaller than this hole.
Oh, that's crazy.
We would have no place to plug it in.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the last couple of standoffs here.
And for the standoffs, you can just use your hands. You don't need to tighten them with pliers or anything.
Cool. It's not a terrible idea, but it makes it easier. And you definitely don't want to strip these. That's the big important thing. So always run it a quarter turn back until you feel it kind of click, and then run it forward so you don't get it in. Because if you get it in cockeyed or something, it's going to make it real hard to get your motherboard in, right? So I think we're ready to put the board in.
I am also the king of stripping screws.
Quarter turn back.
Yeah,
My dad used to yell at me all the time when I was a kid for not doing the quarter turn.
Yeah, no, it's...
So to put in the motherboard, again, very simple.
You should just smash it down?
Unlike dropping in the CPU, putting them in an angle is actually a good idea. And you want to go from the front to the back because you want the I/O ports to line up.
So now this is also a good time to look, as you're looking down in the machine, to look at all the holes and make sure that there's a standoff underneath it. I actually did a really good job. It seems like I've gotten everything in there with no kind of ill effects. And then when you're screwing this stuff in, you want to start, first off, you should see which screws we're supposed to use for this, because there's a bunch of different kinds of screws here. And you can actually test that by picking up the different kinds of screws and an extra standoff, and then seeing which ones are threaded right, and if they're, because there's two different kinds of threads that you'll find in the PC. There's the big wide thread, and then there's a really, really narrow thread. Usually it's the big wide thread for motherboard standoffs, but it changes from case to case. Okay. So it's always worth taking a second to check. Like that is not the right screw. That is for hard drives or something like that. We'll figure that out in a little bit. But it's these little guys right here.
Super
with
small
this little, So we need 9 of those. And I'm going to go ahead and start screwing those in. Again, this is another place it's a good idea to do the spare tire thing, where you start in one corner, move to the other, and then kind of rotate around the case as you go.
Now, magnetic screwdrivers, bad here, right?
It doesn't matter.
Great.
Use all the magnetic screwdrivers you want. Again, there's things that people always tell you to do when you're building a PC.
Right.
Don't use magnetic screwdrivers. Always use a wrist strap. Don't do this while you're smoking or drinking, and don't rest your Kool-Aid on top of the computer. Everything's fine. I mean, just don't do anything stupid.
I've been using a magnetic screwdriver for years and have not had any trouble. For what it's worth. And I've never used a wrist strap. And typically, I build things on carpet.
Yeah, I've built computers on a wool carpet before. No problems. So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you really use common sense, be smart, but don't get all freaked out about things not working or things working.
And if it goes bad, you can always RMA it, right?
Yeah, I mean, let Newegg eat the cost. Yeah. Hey, Newegg, official sponsors of. Wait, no, that's not right.
They're not. All right, screw the guy.
Yeah.
So that raises a good point. Where do you buy your parts?
Yeah.
You got them from a mixture of Newegg and Amazon?
And Amazon, yeah.
Yep. I think
because I was Amazon Prime, so I figured, like saving on the shipping and that was
and also
and the prices seemed their prices seemed completely reasonable.
Their store usually the trick with Amazon is it may seem like it's a little more expensive until you start thinking about what shipping is going to cost at other places.
Yeah.
And if you have Prime, then Amazon shipping is a no-brainer.
And I have Prime because I had a roommate who got Prime, and then he moved out, but the address is still on Prime, so I'm not even paying for Prime.
That's fantastic.
Which is great. I don't get their video streaming stuff, but whatever, man. I get
you have Netflix. You don't need that
shipped
stuff.
to my house.
Really? Have you ordered toilet paper before?
I've
always had too much shame to do that.
No, I decided to try it. I figured I would cross that barrier.
Did it make you feel like bad as a human being, or was it okay?
Made you feel like this is what Webvan could have been like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I used to order groceries from Webvan.
Like a Snickers bar and
fish.
Send me some ice cream.
And and a half pint of Ben and Jerry's.
Make use of that freezer in the truck.
Right.
I used to order from Webvan back in the day when I lived up on the 5th floor of a walk-up.
What was the other one? There was Cosmo.
Cosmo was the one that you could get anything.
Right.
Like you'd be like, hey, I need a 5th of Jack Daniels and a bag of ice.
Those were that was the thing that that was the ridiculous thing because that was the one you would literally call up and say, I need a Snickers bar and this movie.
And it was like a $12 delivery charge or something.
And you were like, whatever.
So speaking of buying parts, we're building a completely new PC for you.
Yes.
A lot of people, they might actually just be upgrading. If you're just upgrading, you can probably still use a lot of the old components, depending on how old your PC is.
Right.
I say don't ever use old hard drives.
Hard drives have
so cheap.
I have hard drives in my current machine that are 2 machines old, like a 750 megabyte. Like I
they're ticking time bombs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just have them in there. There's nothing important on them. They're just in there just in case.
They're case warmers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Get rid of them, man.
your case, your chassis, if you have a good one, if you're really happy with one, they really haven't changed all that much.
I've been using the same
past
case
couple of years.
for 4 years.
Keep that. If you're, for your system, the Core 2 Quad, you're still probably using DDR2.
Yeah.
So you couldn't use that here because this is DDR3. But if you had DDR3 RAM in like an Halem system, you could use that in a Sandy Bridge system.
So Norm had mentioned these a little while ago. These are one of the reasons I like ASUS motherboards, and Norm does too. These guys are front panel header connectors. So if you look at these little wires up on the front of the case that are always a pain in the ass to plug in, that control the lights and the switches and stuff like that.
Button.
And the turbo button.
Keep talking about the turbo button.
Dude, I wish there was a turbo button still.
Show this to the
show that to the camera.
Cameras.
And what these do is make it really easy for you to plug that into the motherboard.
Okay.
So normally you have to get these little tiny wires
down into the case.
And you have to get down into the case and kind of like get a flashlight, maybe a magnifying glass.
And you always
as I get older,
put in
my
like
eyes
3 of them upside down.
Yeah, and like they have to be on the right plugs.
You never know which one the plus, the positive, negative.
This tells you. So go ahead and plug those in.
So for example, here I got power LED plus and power LED minus. So there you go. Which one is the
That's the switch.
I always get in really awesome situations
It'll
where you're
say
like,
LED
oh,
for
my
power
computer
LED.
only boots when I'm
Other
holding
side.
the reset button down.
There it goes.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm
You
like,
don't want
oh,
that.
wait, all these buttons are
Or
in
my
backwards.
power light has never ever been on.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you're not going to mess anything up. You're not going to break anything if you hook this stuff up the wrong way.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have it work right. Like when you build a machine, I want it to work as well as what I could get from Dell or HP or Apple or whoever else it happens to be. So this is the power ground. If it doesn't say LED, that means it's not light. And those are non-polar, so you can plug them in whichever way you want. I could plug it in this way. I could plug it.
I usually facing the text out, so I can.
I do, but it didn't seem to want to go in that way, so I just did it the other way.
I see how it is.
Yeah, I'm doing it. It's not my machine. Who
I thought
cares?
you said you wanted to be as good as some of these.
It's going to be entirely adequate.
I don't see origami going on right now.
So reset switch is the last thing. Sometimes you'll have a hard disk LED. This one doesn't seem to have that LED. So we're just going to plug it in. And the front panel header connector is inside the case. It's on the bottom edge of the motherboard. And I think maybe if you shoot from our left, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but yeah, it's over here. And it only is going to plug in one way. So I'm looking at this. I'm not seeing which way it plugs in immediately. I think it's this way. Yeah. So you just have to basically look at the pins. The ones that don't have pins for it are blocked out on the bottom. So it really will only plug in one way.
Yeah. Easy.
You just kind of line it up and just gently slide it down and you're done. I mean, that's
Bam.
super
That's simple.
duper easy.
Push those aside.
We'll get those out of the way. We'll fix them later. While we're plugging stuff in, might as well plug in the USB headers and the front panel audio. I think you decided to go with onboard audio, right? We didn't want to do a sound card this
that
time.
might be something I do after the fact. That's something I want to research a little bit more. Again, doing a fair amount of music production, it seems like it would be better to have
like a
higher
low
quality
latency.
audio. Yeah.
So most of these
a little more
motherboards
dedicated.
now with onboard audio, they use the Realtek chips for the onboard. And again, it's one of those things where if you buy the Pro version versus the Deluxe or the Super Deluxe version, you might get slightly different audio chips. The Pro version is going to be fine for 5.1 audio. Some of them come with the daughter boards for the audio. This one, it's built in. If you're plugging in the front panel connector, you have both the HD audio and the, I think it's, what is it?
The HD audio and the AC97.
AC97.
You use the HD audio now.
That's what you want to use now.
And then I'm doing the USB audio as well. This is just a front panel USB, not USB audio. Thank you. Yeah.
USB front panel port, and this one again because this motherboard has USB 3. You actually don't want to plug it into USB 3. They are different, and you definitely don't want to plug it into FireWire.
Right.
So look at the motherboard, and you'll be able to see. If you refer to the manual, which one is the USB 2.
Usually the
front
USB
panel
2 are
connector.
blue.
Yes.
That's the general rule. It's not something you should take as gospel.
Yeah. It'll say again on the motherboard USB. And I'll have numbers like 10,
I don't
11,
know where
12,
the USB
13,
3 ones are.
13 to 14.
Yeah.
And then the other ones,
FireWire sometimes.
FireWire is separate.
I don't think this board has FireWire, which is. Do you really feel like you need FireWire on a day-to-day
God,
basis?
no. Like,
yeah. Nobody uses
And then the
FireWire
last thing
anymore.
for the front panel connectors is an extra SATA data port for eSATA.
Yeah.
And eSATA, if you wanted to have eSATA like an external rack or something, you could plug that in. It will require some extra power. Again, it's very simple. Just plug it in. We'll plug in this actually later once we get to the SATA stuff.
I'm going to go ahead and plug SATA stuff in right now, actually, because this is a good time before we get a bunch of video cards and stuff in here. One of the things that they do on motherboards these days is the front panel SATA connectors. I'm actually going to pick the case up and rotate it around, I think, which might help us see this a little bit better. It will make us see it worse, but you guys will be able to see it better. So pardon me if we fumble. These guys right down here.
Computer.
I'm not going to break your. Everything's cool. It's okay. Take a breath. There you go. You're much less nervous about this than Gary was last year. He was kind of whiny.
That computer still works, right?
Yeah, that computer's awesome.
Well, all right.
So here we go. These guys down here are the front panel, are the SATA connectors. Sorry, thank you. And what I'm going to do is plug this into one of the ones on the right. It really doesn't matter which one's which anymore.
So well, it's not like some kind of like primary, secondary. Or
the one exception is if you have SATA 6G drives, like you do, you want to plug them into SATA 6G ports. That means you'll probably also have to install F6 drivers when you boot, which aren't really called F6 drivers anymore, but they're special drivers. Okay. So we'll get to that when we
And also, you probably don't want to put them into the RAID setup.
Yeah, you want to use the core, the ones that are built into the chipset, not the ones that are part of some third-party controller, because the chipset ones will be easier to use and more reliable. But since this is for the eSATA, I'm going to plug it into a tertiary port because I don't really care about that.
Perfect.
Next thing is to, I guess,
power supply.
Power supply. We can do that next if you want. Yeah. So this is again the Corsair 850. Now there's a couple of ways we can put this in, and I don't know if you can see this on the shot, But over here, there's actually a vent on the bottom of the PC.
On the bottom of the PC, there are holes for a vent, and because the fan, there's a big fan. Power supplies are designed differently, where the fans can be, can go out differently. This one's actually on the.
Sorry, there we
show
go.
The camera.
Okay, so there's a big fan on the bottom here too.
Yes.
This is going to be probably a blowing. I guess this is going to be actually a sucking fan. So it's going to suck air in here, blow it out the back. If you want, you can face that down so you don't pull hot air into the power supply, and then from the inside of the case into the power supply. I really don't think it matters, and it's going to make this unbelievably difficult to keep clean if you aim that down.
Yeah.
Because it'll be dusty and gross within a matter of minutes.
Well, this one also has a filter.
It does have a filter, but you'll be cleaning that all the time. So I'm going to aim the fan up. So it's going to help exhaust air from inside the PC. That may or may not be a good idea. We'll find out later.
All right.
I mean, by we, I mean you.
Right, yeah. When I overclock this thing,
yeah, when you
melts.
When you hit 5 gigahertz and it melts through the bottom of your floor.
Yeah. I would have put it face down.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well we can put it face down.
I like airflow.
You like face down. It's not going to help with airflow at all there.
Well, the case is raised.
That's true.
The case is raised, so there is.
Are you putting this on deep shag?
It's not that deep. It's not super low pile, but
if it's going on carpet, suck air from the inside.
I would also recommend if you're putting it on carpet to get some type of liner and just put it on top of like a plastic liner.
Yes, I did have like a plastic desk kind of like chair roll around liner, but those things just keep cracking.
Okay,
they're all garbage.
I use kitchen liner.
There's usually some screws with the power supply. I'm not seeing them here right now, and I'm just dropping cables everywhere. Let's grab the power supply box over there, Jeff, by the floor, and grab the screws out for that, because I'm sure they're in there somewhere. I just missed them.
So most of the screws are actually going to come with the case. Yeah. We took the box of screws out before.
I didn't stick them to a piece of tape.
They will be inside a box in the case when you buy it.
Screw packet there. There we go. That looks like a screw packet.
Yep.
I missed it because it was with the zip ties.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's a snug little fit.
Yeah, it's going to fit just about perfect, I think. I don't know what that guy. Oh, powered by Corsair sticker. I don't think we really care about that. Basically, there's only one way for the power supply to go on. I mean, well, the power supply will screw in either way, but you just want to get it in snug so it doesn't vibrate, so the vibration of the fans doesn't pass onto the case and make a bunch of noise. And this case is actually really nice. It has a little bit of foam in between, which we might actually have to use one of these bigger screws to hit, but I'll see if we can do it with these. Because the foam's going to make it a little bit further off than it might normally be. But that's good because it'll help insulate you from sound a little bit better. Okay, so you don't want to tighten these all the way down until you get them kind of all in place. And you'll only use, there's notches or holes for 4 screws. You'll probably only use, or for 8 screws rather. That's just so you can mount the power supply right side up or upside down.
Okay. You make the call.
Yeah, you can. It's a personal choice. And these screws were plenty long enough to work through the foam. And I'm not going to tighten it down. I mean, you don't want this super tight. It really doesn't matter at all.
Are you going to be bringing this to many LAN parties?
No.
Okay.
Why not?
Because it's 2011 and I have the internet at home.
Interesting.
Why would I go somewhere to play?
And you have the friends at home.
That's true. Okay, so that's the power supply. It's in. Let's put the machine back down on its back.
So what we haven't done yet is attach the power supply modular power connectors in yet.
We'll do that at the end.
We have the extra, the fixed power cables off to the side. Usually it's the ATX power supply, the CPU power, and a couple PCIe.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is. We don't need those right now. I guess the next thing to do is let's go ahead and hook up all the cables we're going to need for hard drives.
Yes.
So we're going to hook 4 hard drive connectors, I think you said you wanted in here? You want 2 hard drives, an optical drive, and you want to leave one more inside if you want to put one of your ancient hard drives?
Yeah.
Bad idea, Jeff. So these we're going to plug into the white
Actually,
connector
I'll probably end
on
up
the
buying
board.
another 2 terabytes
I
at
think
some point.
It's advisable. Yeah. Don't recycle hard drives. They live for 3 years and then they die. These have snap-on connectors. So I don't know if you can see this, but they have little clips. It's a little bit annoying when you want to take them out. Just make sure you remember that, because if you just start yanking, bad things are going to happen.
Yes.
And these come with the motherboard as well. So on these SATA connectors, there's one side that's like a L-shaped one, and one side that's straight. You want to use a straight one on the motherboard and the L hook on the hard drive.
Yes. And it looks like on this one, the clips go up on the connectors. So there's two. I'm going to use the two white ones for the main SATA 6G ports, the good ports.
Yes.
And then all the others are. So we're going to plug your hard drives in there. We're going to plug your optical drives and your secondary hard drives into the other less awesome ports.
That's racist.
Totally racist. That's what we do here. Tested.com. That's racist. Not really. I can't look up and do asides at the camera when the camera's not on my head. So I'm going to give you 5 total connectors here, which seems like
a lot.
That seems like a lot to me. I think
you can always tuck them away if you're doing it once. It's not going to hurt airflow. Just have these cables running, not connecting things.
Well, and the nice thing about having these front-facing SATA ports, which at first glance seems like kind of a bad idea, because they're really hard to get at, especially when you have video cards and stuff in the case.
Right.
The reason you do this is that this video card is huge.
And
so,
it's going to block
in
SATA
order
ports.
to get, if they faced up, you wouldn't be able to plug anything into them.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't work. And since I have the video card in my hand, I guess it's probably time to put video card in, huh?
Yeah,
might as
do
well.
that. So
here's something to note. There's a plastic connector on the edge. Don't touch the gold stuff when you're taking the plastic connector off. I don't really know why they put the plastic connector on. It seems kind of dopey since it's wrapped in plastic and safety bubbles and all that stuff. But
extra protection,
whatever.
Layers and layers of protection. You can leave the plastic connectors on if you're not using SLI or Crossfire on the tops.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to leave those on. I'm going to leave the DVI ones on for right now.
Voodoo 2, put it in here, and SLI.
Power VR is where it's at, man.
Yeah. Whatever, man.
Hey, man, Power VR is what's powering the
iPad. Voodoo 5.
Yeah, I guess so. Huh?
Separate power supply.
Who would have thought that Power VR would outlive 3DFX?
God.
And now they're in our game consoles and iPhones.
So what I'm doing right now is taking the slot covers off. So those are these guys right here. And basically all they are is little pieces of metal that go over the holes in the back so that it kind of
those ones look
airflow.
very nice. I have seen some ratty slot covers over the years. Those are the nicest slot covers I have ever seen. I'm very excited.
I have to say, this is a super nice case to build in.
I like the color scheme, too.
From what I've seen so far. I mean, if you're a dude who likes to build PCs...
I'm so excited for when we get to the part with the drives, because that part looks downright elegant.
It's going to be sexy.
Okay.
So
the last time we built a PC, the slot covers had clips that just clipped on to lock.
Toolless.
There's completely toolless.
Right.
These are still toolless because you don't have to use a screwdriver.
I couldn't undo them with my fingers. They were too tight.
Yeah, so just use thumb screws. Really big thumb screws.
So when you're putting this in, before I put this in, I'm going to actually show you guys something. There's a latch on the end of the slot.
Yep.
This one actually doesn't even look like it. Oh, yeah, it does. So when you push this card in here, this little latch is going to pop up into place, and that will keep the back of the card from falling out if you're moving the machine or something like that.
Right.
If you ever have to take your video card out, you don't just have to unscrew it. You also have to kind of reach around the back side of the card and flip it up with your finger.
Give this card a reach around to get it out. Got it.
Exactly. Lots of things I find with a reach around go better.
Fill those slots.
Fill the slots. Thank you, Norm. Way to make this filthy all of a sudden, out of nowhere. It's nothing but clean before.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, so I had it lined up perfect before, and the card fits in perfectly, so I apologize for smearing Nathan's good name over at Max PC. I am really super impressed with this case so far, though.
Yeah. So again, this video card we got takes up 3 slots. That is a little bit overkill. There are versions of the GTX 570, and even from ASUS that only take up 2 slots.
But really, so what do people use slots for anymore? It always used to be, okay,
Sound
I
card.
need sound card and video card, and that was always kind of it.
So the layout
Unless
of the
you were getting
motherboard
like deep into SCSI or just being super crazy with stuff.
really
But, like,
just is the PCI X16 lanes or X8 lanes for video card, and then there's a PCIe X1 by 1 for sound, sometimes between the video cards, and video capture. You know, if you don't, even today, like the tuner cards, like
still take a slot.
Sometimes they're PCI, sometimes they're USB.
You can get a Wi-Fi card that's USB. I don't generally advise that just because then you have antenna problems.
Right.
You know, you're gonna have to run a wired antenna out of the back of the case anyway.
And there's, on the off chance your Ethernet port fails, you can get an Ethernet card.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of aftermarket, high-end, amazing Ethernet cards.
No, don't buy those.
No, they're all
they're a trap.
They said they were way better.
No, don't buy. They don't do anything.
Not only were they better, they were killer.
Yeah. Oh God. Please stop giving these people. Don't increase people's awareness of these bad products.
People need to know that
Don't
people
buy.
are out there ripping off people by selling this
If you
crap,
feel like
right?
you can tell the difference between a 5 millisecond ping improvement, you should spend $200 on one of those cards because they are awesome at that. Can you tell 5 Just like that. It just happened. You're just 5 milliseconds faster.
Whoa.
So video card's in. I screwed all 3 screws in. You don't have to do that. I just did it so you wouldn't lose the screws.
Sure.
1 or 2 will probably be fine.
Okay.
The next thing we should do is let's hook up power, and then let's connect the drives. And I think we're about done.
Power last.
You want to do power last? Okay,
Power
and then
last,
drives.
and
Okay.
then drives.
So I'll pull out a couple of drive cages here, and we'll just put one of the drives in now. We'll put the other one in later. But here, I don't know if you can see this. Here we go. These are drive caddies.
Yes.
They are awesome for quiet hard
great.
drives. Yeah, they're nice and white painted.
Man.
I love the matte finish inside this
Yeah.
and the shiny finish on the outside. It's very cool. Yeah. You did well in the case.
This is totally sweet.
And this is their first case in the U.S., these guys.
Right.
They haven't done that before. Usually, you put the hard drives in with the screws on the side. That's what you're traditionally used to doing. You're not going to do that here.
What?
No, it's crazy. We're bringing things out a whole new door. We're going to screw these in through the bottom. And what you need to do is just line up. There's only 2 holes that'll match. There's only 4 holes on the bottom, rather. 2 sets of holes, and then we use the long screws
with the buffer,
with the kind of shim.
Okay, yeah.
And they're just going to go in. And what's going to happen? What these grommets will do is isolate. You know the clicking noise that hard drives make.
Right.
That gets transmitted through the metal of the case to the rest of the case, and acts like a giant echo chamber.
Yes.
So by using these grommets, it'll help reduce that. And this
Resident
is something
clicking.
Yeah, this is something that we first saw on Antec cases years ago. Like the P180 in some of those cases.
That is very cool.
So yeah, we're going to sit these down. You don't have to get these super tight. You want to get it until it stops, basically. You run out of screw, and it'll stop twisting when you're using the screwdriver.
And if you tighten it too tight, it'll just vibrate more. It'll actually start to get close to the metal.
I don't think you can't tighten it too tight.
Yeah.
I think it just because of the way the screw works, it'll just stop.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you run out of stuff to screw in.
Shim.
And then the nice thing is, if you see how this works, if you see how this case works, there are also holes in here for SSDs. So these 4 holes are probably going to line up with SSD holes perfectly. So SSDs are usually 2.5-inch drives, like a notebook hard drive. Super, super easy to put in, and it's nice so you don't have to have some sort of weird adapter for them. So I'm going to drop this guy in here.
Bam.
Boom.
Your hard drive is installed.
I'm going to find one of the white cables.
Yep. That's why you color code them.
Yes. And I'm just going to snap that in here. We'll do the power in a minute. Don't worry about that right
Okay,
now.
all right.
You want to, when you're connecting these guys, you want to be careful. You want to try to avoid, I say this as I'm getting ready to do something dumb. I'm going to unhook it. You don't want to put stress on these connectors because they're a little bit fragile. They're sturdier than they used to be.
Especially the power ones.
You don't want to kind of do that number because if you pop that off, basically the drive's done.
Yeah.
And you'll have a hard time RMA.
Okay.
Yeah, they're probably not going to.
Because they can look at that and go, "You did this."
Yeah, they're going to be like, "Hey, we don't RMA stupid."
Right.
Yeah. So next up is optical drive. I'm going to lift the case up for that.
Get these cables out of the way.
Probably should have said that a little bit in advance. And it looks like the optical drive's on a Caddy 2 in this case. I've not built in this case before, so we're learning a lot as we go here today. Is there a front bezel on there?
Is the top or the bottom one?
Bottom one.
It's actually just a latch on the front. Pops off, super easy.
Well, that was easy.
And then I'll make sure it's face up.
So you want to get it the right side up, and you want to make sure the bezel is even with the front of the bezel of the case. So you don't want it to be poking out.
There's an extra shield actually on the bottom one.
Okay.
Should not put the bottom?
Your optical drive in upside down.
Well,
we
can do the top one if we want.
The top one has no.
The top one has no shield, but it had it didn't have any screws. But I can grab screws from the pile. So yeah, we can use the top one. That's fine.
Okay.
We're gonna put in the top one.
That's fine.
Sudden, unpredictable change of heart. It's a tested.com specialty.
That's you don't have to reach as far when getting to it.
That's true.
So
is there something I think you need to tilt it up a little bit, Norm. Oh, but there might be something blocking it on the.
I will let you.
No, I think you just need to get it in and tilt it, tilt the front down. There you go.
There it goes. Yep.
Keep pushing. No, you're on the stoppy place. So a lot of times in cases these days, they'll do a semi-toolless design. What it is there's a little thing here on the inside edge that it actually has a piece of metal that kind of bends in and some nubs on the end. And what'll happen is that those nubs will click into the screw holes when it's in the right spot.
Okay.
So you only have to put 2 screws in. So but you do have to give it kind of a pretty good shove to get it in sometimes. Maybe get a little speed. I wish I had a flashlight or something. You just need to push it, Norm.
I'm pushing. Yeah,
Lean into it.
Definitely.
Okay, well, pull it out and let me take a look. Let me make sure there's not something in there. This is the kind of stuff that happens when you're building a PC. You have to kind of take each move a little bit at a time. I can't see what it's hanging on. Is there a screw or something over there?
No.
Okay, that's not working. Pull it out. Push it in again. Okay, so where's it hooking? Put my head in the case. I don't see what it's hooking on at all. Let's try the bottom one.
Wait, nope, there it goes.
Oh, you got it. What did you do? Just have to wiggle?
I just wiggled.
Sometimes you have to wiggle. Is it
like
flush in the front?
Yep.
Nice. So we're going to put in the top 2 screws on each side. You want to do your side, Jeff?
Yeah, sure.
Just grab a couple there.
There's a screwdriver.
They're thumb screws.
Top holes.
Yeah, you know, we might, these are, I can't tell if these are the right screws or not.
I would
Sometimes
say
these are the fine screws. It seems like it might be a little bit high.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's not necessarily lined up.
Here you go.
Super.
There you go.
Close.
Does that help?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a snug fit for the screwdriver. That might not be the right screw, Jeff. I might have screwed you.
I think you might be right.
Well,
thin ones.
thin ones, yeah. Okay, let me find some thin ones. So this is one of the things that happens. Optical drives are usually the same kind of screw. These actually were for the drive cage for an SSD. And if you just want to put a couple of screws in for the optical drive, that's A-okay. And if you want to give us a call, you can call us, ask questions. We're all elbows deep in this computer case right now, but our phone number is 415-508-3975. Or, if you want to sound better, Skype us at Whiskey Media. Skype always sounds better.
All right.
So
I got
optical
one
drives
screw in over here.
Here, you want one more? Just
I mean, if we got it, might as well use it.
you want to make sure that that optical drive doesn't get away.
Yeah. I don't want it to escape.
I don't know if we have any more of the. Here's one. There you go.
All right. Oh,
Okay. How are you feeling about this so far? Feeling pretty good?
pretty good about it.
Okay. Is this easier or harder than you thought it was going to be, Jeff?
It is about how I figured it would be. There'd be like one or two things where you're like, okay, we gotta get different screws for this, or shove this a little harder. Like that stuff. Just seems like it comes with the territory. But
and it's always the expensive stuff that's scary.
Exactly.
Right. The CPU is always the scariest part of the whole project.
Yeah. You
just
got,
because one mess up.
Is that a good click or a bad click?
You made the CPU look really easy, even though it looked pretty scary. So
you know, I used to have Gordon do those for me when I was at Max PC because they're scary as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're dealing with a $1,000 CPU.
Right.
You don't want to mess that up.
All right.
Okay.
So now we have let's just take the hard drive, put the SATA data in. So this one, stuff on top of the screws.
Okay, good. Yeah, you don't want to. One thing that's important to mention, I should have said this earlier, but you want to make sure as you're doing this that you don't like spin the case around, especially if you're working on a surface either that you like or a case that you like. So if you get if we got a screw under here and had the other panel on the bottom while we're spinning it around, it's not going to look good.
Everything. Yeah.
Your table's going to get messed up. Your case will get messed up. Everybody's going to be unhappy with you. But now we're ready to hook up the rest of the SATA connectors, right?
Yep. So you want to grab one that's not white.
Michael from Sweden.
Hey, we have Michael from Sweden on the line. Michael.
Hi, Mike.
Are you there? Oh, hey, Michael. Michael, can you hear us?
Michael from Sweden, go ahead.
Well, we'll get back to
all right,
Michael maybe in a minute.
yeah.
Norm's connecting the SATA data connector on the optical drive. I feel like we're forgetting something, Norm.
We're not forgetting much
We're not
except
forgetting
for the
anything. We just have to
SATA
do power, right? We need to do motherboard power, SATA power, and
GPU
video card power,
Yep.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Seems
It really
seems
is.
like this has gone really
That
fast.
simple. Like a PC is 8
It's crazy,
components.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Case, CPU, motherboard, video card, memory, hard drive, optical drive.
And
power
it's
supply.
really,
8 components.
the most of my time spent building PCs, it was always like a gigantic ribbon cable. This is before they even had rounded connectors or anything like that. So it was just like, by the end, the case would be a mess of cables, and everything was taut to the point where you're like, okay, I need to actually...
The banjo wire.
Yeah, I need to redo everything to try and even reach these ports, but this just seems...
Well, we haven't put the power in yet, which is a little bit tricky.
You damn kids got it easy building these PCs.
So for the power for the hard drive and the optical drive, those are usually SATA power connectors. They're not permanently attached to the power supply if you're using modular power supply. Those are the things that you can swap in 10 of those if you want. So you have to go in the bag, and you have to find the SATA power connector. You need 2 separate connections. One, because you're not going to put both the hard drive and the optical drive on one power connector because they're just too far apart.
And while you find those cables, let's talk to Michael from Sweden. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
It's fine, it's fine. It's a bit late, but when Jeff tells me that there's going to be a live stream, I'm going to be there. So.
Excellent, sir.
Great to hear it.
What's your question?
Just one thing, is there a specific reason why you went with a stock cooler instead of an aftermarket, which, you know?
Price, really, more than anything. I mean, when we like to keep these builds at a specific price. This actually ended up being exactly $1,500, which is a little bit crazy.
Also, because Sandy Bridge is it's so cool, 32 nanometer process.
Well, yeah, the stock cooler is definitely excellent.
They're actually, Intel stock coolers for Sandy Bridge are actually smaller than the ones they had for previous generations because they're so confident. If you look at the cooler for like their high-end 13669 990X, it's massive, the stock cooler. But if you did want to go with third-party air cooler, I still recommend the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Plus. It's $30. It does require a little more installation. Also, because we're doing this live, we didn't want too many complications with the bracket and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no. If you're not going to overclock, stock cooling is fine. It's quiet.
Which all this talk about how I can overclock makes me think that maybe I might want to mess around with it. Well, like not crazy. No, obviously not crazy.
Just a couple megahertz.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just want a little bump.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Well,
thanks for need it.
Thanks for your call, Michael. Yeah. So now we're going to plug the modular power cables in. And overclocking is something you can do at any time. It's up to you.
Right. Yeah.
You can start tomorrow. You can start a year from now.
All right. Okay.
Basically, there's two ends of these cables. One is the end that plugs into the drives. The other is the end that plugs into the power supply.
Long and L-shaped.
Basically, and these are color-coded. So the black connectors plug into the black. Well, this one says PCIe, so they're labeled on the ends if there's a chance of confusion.
So again, here's a point where you can make an error.
Yeah.
On the actual power supply, at least with the Corsair ones, do not plug the black end into the blue end. The ports are actually colored. The blue ends are going to be for the PCIe, and the black ones are going to be for the SATA.
The other thing that's important is if you have an old modular power supply, you get a new one, shit can the old cables because they are not going to be compatible.
Yes, even if they're from the same manufacturer.
Even like half the time, totally different.
Totally different wiring
Set
standard.
your entire computer on fire. Don't do that.
So if you wanted to make this real pretty and fancy it up, then it would be relatively easy for us to. There's even holes in the case for it.
Oh, to
run the wires up through here, and then just pick one of these slots and run all the cables up in the same place so that it's relatively tidy. We're not going to do that right now because it's live and it takes a long time. But if you wanted to do that, it is something that is really trivially easy to do, and we can help you with it later.
Yeah, that sounds pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, especially since it's modular, you can even like leave stuff unhooked. You can unhook it from the easy to pull and run it back down and around, and then plug it back into the power supply. So these are keyed. The SATA power connectors are keyed. They only go in one way. Basically, you want to put the notch on the right side of the drive as you're looking at it. Really easy. Hard to mess up, but again, you don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on those cables.
Yeah, they don't really click; they just kind of slot in.
It just snaps in a little bit. And then that's pretty much it. We need to do
thing for the optical drive, which I can't really see where the key.
It's hard to do these with the Braille method sometimes, but I mean,
that didn't sound
well, that didn't sound good.
That's because we had.
Norm just bought Jeff a new optical drive. Congratulations, Jeff.
Very nice.
SH-S223. Next thing is the power. There's two power connectors that go to the motherboard.
Yeah.
This big giant one.
Right.
Right here. This is the ATX power connector.
I recommend doing that very, very end.
You do that at the very end? Wow. Okay. I do that usually pretty early, but we'll follow Chan rules today.
Sure.
And then, so there are actually four fixed power connectors from this power supply. One, like the one we'll just mention, is a 24-pin ATX power supply. One is an 8-pin CPU connector, so it'll actually be. I can scoot in.
Yeah.
It'll actually say CPU right here.
CPU. It's the one with 8.
Yep.
Yeah.
One with 8. And don't confuse this with the PCIe one. There's actually two PCIes, and they actually say PCIe on the side, and they're usually 6. If they're 8, they're 6 and 2.
Typically
this
modular.
One does not say CPU. Some of them do say CPU, but this one is for the CPU. And so if you look on the motherboard.
Hold on. First, untangle. Get everything as untangled as you can, because it's hard to do this when they're plugged in.
This one goes over your video card.
Here, I got this, Norm.
And if you look on the motherboard, there's actually
way down here,
right there, 8 pins for the CPU power.
And so there's a hook on the side of this connector. You want to actually hook that in. That hook, there's going to be a catch on the side of the connector that'll hook into, and that'll click into place when you get it lined up right.
On some motherboards, actually, when you open it up, there's going to be 4 of the holes blocked on the CPU with a cover, and you'll just want to pull that cover off and put the 8-pin.
And then if you have an AMD motherboard that only has 4 pins, you can snap that thing in half. Either half will work.
Oh.
Yeah, it's basically just 2 of the same 4-pin connector lined up next to each other.
Let's do a video card.
Okay. So these are the two video card connectors. You could actually run other connectors from the board. That's what those blue connectors on the panel are. So if you're adding a second video card, it's actually not a bad idea to hook up one from the blue connectors and one from the black connectors to each card. Since we just have one card in this machine, we're going to hook them both up. It doesn't matter. Yeah, no reason to make it more complex and add more wires. So again, I'm going to untangle these guys before I get them here. These are easy to tuck down and around, get them out of the way. And basically, there's a 4-pin, an 8-pin, and a 6-pin. These are both adjustable, the adaptable kind, so you can make either one into a 6-pin, and make both of them into a 8-pin if you need. I'm going to snap the 8-pin in first. It's probably not a good idea to put too much stress on the board as you do this, but once it clicks into place, yeah, it's not a loud click, it's just a plastic click.
Right.
And then same thing for the 6-pin. And if you have a lower end video card, you won't have to connect these, or you may only have one 6-pin.
This one needs power.
Yeah, this one needs the juice. And that's because the PCI Express slot doesn't deliver as much power as the video cards need, high-end gaming video cards need now. Then the last thing, of course, is the big giant ATX connector.
And when we say last thing, this is actually the very last thing, aside from the sides on the case.
Yeah. So this, again, there's a notch on the side of the connector. You can usually feel it. On this one, it's on the outside edge of the board, so it's over here. And that hooks onto this little clip. If this little guy in the end pops off, don't sweat it. It'll snap back in. There's a bunch of different kinds of connectors. Basically, this is to accommodate really old PCs at this point, or low-power PCs.
Like you pull those last ones
off.
You
can pull those last 4 off if you only have a 20-pin instead of 24. And this I'm going to run up. Again, if you wanted to pretty this up, pop the video card out, you can run all these cables underneath the video card. Yeah, I mean, and just kind of snake them up. There's even holes in the motherboard tray to bring this stuff up from the bottom if you want to really fancify it. But since there's no case, no door on this case, I kind of feel like it's a little masturbatory.
Once it's in there, it's in there.
Yeah.
And you want easy access to it if you're going to replace other stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, now I'm going to thread this back through and do this.
Exactly.
It's like, I just want to yank it all out.
Yeah, if you ever have to swap the motherboard out and you've done all that wiring, it is an absolute nightmare.
Right.
So this is the ATX power connector. That's the last thing.
There's actually one more thing.
Oh, did we forget something?
And cases will have case fans.
Good grief.
And some of them will come with multiple case fans. They will have power connectors, 3-pin power connectors. Well, this is a little tangled right now.
I've made bad choices.
I'll show you on the camera what it looks like. It should say 3 pins, 1, 2, 3. And if you look on the motherboard, there will be plenty of places where you see it will say case fan 1, case fan 2, chassis
or
fan.
sys or something like that.
And you can just plug it in pretty much anywhere where it's close. So I can actually see.
I can reach over and grab one. Hey, while I'm plugging this in, let's talk to Dylan from New Jersey. Hey, Dylan, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing great. Good. A little sweaty. What's your question, sir?
Sorry. Do you think that Jeff will get away with at least 2 more years with the CPU over the GPU before he needs to upgrade?
I would think on this machine he should be good for at least 2 years.
I think the CPU for sure, he'll be good for 2 years. He might want to pop in a new cooler and overclock to like 4142. The GPU, maybe like a year and a half. You might want to go add in a second video card or upgrade to another one once like a generation and a half.
So what's coming down the pipe? I mean, what do you think it's going to end up looking like? Is it going to make more sense to just get a second video card and go that route? Or
it's all about power consumption.
Okay.
Because you're already on a relatively high-end card. I mean, your power supply is going to be plenty if you want to put 2 570s in here.
Yeah.
The thing really to do is look at performance when you're ready to do that. And sometimes it makes more sense to have a faster single card than dual cards, because there are problems with dual GPUs. I mean, a lot of times your games don't work on day one. There are other issues. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but anyway. Yeah,
when I built my computer, I didn't have to upgrade the CPU. I upgraded the GPU like 3 times. Do you think now with the newer processors and the way consoles are going that Jeff is going to have the same luck?
I think that's a great question, Dylan. Thanks for calling. Definitely, without a doubt. I mean, CPUs, you need to upgrade much less frequently than GPUs.
Right. Yeah, because you might want to, by the time you're going to upgrade 2 years down the line, you have to upgrade both motherboard and CPU. I know people who are on like Core 2 quads or even like first-gen Halums, 920s, perfectly happy. You pop in a 570 or a 580 in there, or even 6970, and you're going to get much better performance than your 260.
Well, and quad core seems to be, we seem to be stopped at quad core. So for a while, it seemed like we were going to keep adding more and more cores. Software doesn't really take advantage of more than quad core for most high-end machines, even high-end applications.
I felt like when I bought that quad core machine, like nothing was even using quad core at that point.
Not
it was
really.
just like it seemed like a gigantic waste of time.
What's happening now, especially if you do video encoding, audio stuff is going to use multiple cores. But for gaming, 4 cores is going to be sufficient for a long time. I would be stunned if next generation consoles have more than 4 cores.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's going to be the determining factor for a lot of like AAA high-end PC games.
So your CPU that we bought actually is quad core, but does not have hyper-threading, so you won't get 8 virtual cores.
Okay.
If you want to upgrade down the line and get like a Core i7 like 2600K, which is $300 right now, but obviously will be cheaper, that one does have the hyper-threading. It's an option if you're picking out parts right now.
So
2500, no hyper-threading. 2600, yes, hyper-threading.
Let's find the power strip. I don't know exactly where it's gotten off to, and I realized I didn't bring the monitor over here when we got started. But let's set this thing up, see if it posts.
Yeah.
Maybe start installing Windows and take some more questions from the folks at home.
Sure.
You're basically done.
We need,
PC,
we
just need a monitor.
We need a monitor
and a
over
power
here,
cable.
because I left it sitting over there where we can't get to
Oh.
it from here. It turns out.
I have
Oh,
too
hey,
many-
Sean Kutz to save the day. And then I need to find the power strip, which we talked about, and I don't think we ever actually brought over here either.
Man.
Yeah, this is live internet TV, folks. If you have a question, the phone number is 415-508-3975, or Skype us at Whiskey Media.
Whiskey Media.
Sounds best, right? For
Yeah.
optimal
Skype does sound
soundage.
best. So what do you think about your PC, Jeff? This is the cleanest and best it's going to look. You know, like
No!
6 months down the line, if you open it up, you're going to get a little bit dust here
6
and there.
months, nothing. Like I'm telling you, like 3 months, there's going to be just dust caked on everything inside this case. It is, and no matter how much time I spend cleaning,
Yeah,
and vacuuming,
it will
and
never
dusting,
be like it is today.
Yeah.
No.
I think it looks awesome. What are theyese little holes over here? Like I can peekaboo through these little.
Again, if you wanted to pop SATA around the back.
that's okay. That's those are the holes for running cables.
So
Okay.
there's a bunch of holes in this kind of case. This is one of the reasons I like these cases.
Yeah.
The enthusiast cases more than like a mainstream. And this was kind of an expensive case for this type of machine. I mean, this was a $100 case.
Yeah.
You could easily go get a $45 case that will do what you need it to do. It'll hold the components.
Yeah.
It'll have a power supply probably. It's not going to be a good one, but it'll work.
Right.
When you spend a little bit more money on a case, and you can get something that's a little bit quieter, maybe a little bit easier to do wiring in. This one even has all sorts of water in and out pipes if you wanted to do water cooling.
Okay, is that what these are?
That's what those guys are.
it.
I mean, there's a ton of cool stuff going on in here. It's not, I mean, it may be stuff you never use, but it's nice to have the option. Yeah, exactly. And I did we ever find power or no? Not so much. I'm thinking the power. Let's see, the power cord for the PC is in the power supply box.
Okay.
So we'll want that. And I think I brought a mouse over and didn't bring a keyboard. This is what happens when you do everything at the last minute.
Well, in the meantime,
folks.
while we get that stuff together, we've got
Yeah, of
Eduardo
course.
from Brazil.
Oh,
on
hey,
the line.
Eduardo. Hey, Eduardo.
Did you create Facebook?
Hey, hello.
How you
Hello,
doing,
Jeff.
Eduardo?
This is your old friend Eduardo from GameSpot.
Good talking to you. How you doing, man? You got a question?
Yes, I would like to know how do I effectively clean my PC case? And I'd like to know about the fan that you have on the back of your case. I just had a PC made and it doesn't include that fan. And I'd like to know if there's any problems with not having that other fan, that white fan you have.
Oh, thanks for your question, Eduardo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The best way to clean your case is to get some sort of air source, compressed air, whatever. You don't want to let the air push the fans and spin the fans real quick because that'll mess up the bearings and the bushings on the fan, depending on what kind of fan you have. It's a bad idea, even though it's fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Especially on the CPU.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Right.
But basically, just get in there, blast out with dust. If you have filters in the case, take them out, run them through some water, let them air dry before you put them back in the computer, obviously. And then, if your case doesn't have filters, what I like to do is take a Swiffer. So you know those things you use to
Not the wet ones.
Not the wet ones.
Not the
Swiffer
wet
wet.
ones. No.
Swiffer dry.
Yes.
Yes.
Take that, cut it to the right size, put it over your 12.5 centimeter intakes on the front of the case, and that'll catch a lot of the dust and crap before it gets into the computer,
makeshift filter.
which makes everything a lot cleaner. As for the back fan, it's for exhaust. It's good to have. It's not necessary. They're about $10 if you order them online, and you can just hook it onto your PC.
Most
if you have
cases
it
will
now.
have, like even this case, there's only one fan in the back, but there are spots you
Spots
put
here on the
fans.
top,
Yeah, and on the side and everything. You can
Yep.
get crazy with fans on this
Right.
thing. So we don't have the stuff to actually boot the PC now, which I'm a little bit bummed out about.
Great. Thanks for watching.
Oh, there's power by Norm's Foot apparently, but we don't have.
no,
the
we need a
power.
power
Here's
cable.
a power cable. I found
Oh, sweet.
this technology. It's all coming together.
Yep.
Here at the end.
Norm,
we've
can
got-
you plug in the monitor over there, sir?
I can indeed.
We don't have a keyboard, which was a little bit foolish on my part. I see it sitting over there where I picked it up and was going to carry it over here and then failed
totally
to.
Didn't. And then totally did not.
But this is kind of fun because I get to watch Drew weave through a maze of lights and tripods while staying out of shot the entire time like a consummate professional. Thanks, Drew.
Well, this is a high-quality keyboard.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, this is what you guys used to play PC games on over in the PC gaming game.
Yeah, I think it was like Mike Tatum's leftover keyboard from some other PC.
All right, so
I don't want to touch
we've
this
had the
now.
power off, on the
matter.
back, and now it's switched on.
So you're saying you just did that this moment? I'm gonna hit
And
the power button.
Jeff hit the power button.
Oh,
Jeff did it. It's his computer.
Jeff does the first boot. It's a Mac monitor. I feel like we're tainting this whole thing. Nothing happened.
Oh, wait.
No smoke, no fire.
All right.
It's so quiet. I didn't even know it turned
power
on.
button looks pretty cool.
That's the power light as well.
Yeah.
Remember we hooked that into that front panel?
Yeah.
It was real easy.
It was
So
really easy.
if you look on the inside, the fan is spinning, and there are boot lights that indicate that the boot is going. And if you look on you guys can't see it, but it's actually booting. It went through the splash screen, and there it goes. It's going through the BIOS right now.
I should do this professionally.
It seems pretty quiet.
It is extremely
This is
quiet.
nice.
And we've got, I mean,
I've got both fans in. There's a fan in the front and a fan in the back. So the nice thing is, and actually I didn't realize there was a fan in the front. We might want to actually move your hard drive down a little bit, so it's in the path of that air.
Yeah.
And I mean, hard drives, they're not real sensitive to heat, but also it doesn't hurt. It makes them last longer if you keep them at a normal temperature instead of letting them get too hot. So I have a copy of Windows 7 Home Premium here. It's in this box. It's actually on this disk.
That is what we recommend. 64-bit Windows Home 7, Windows 7 Home Premium.
I can't work
it's,
the door.
It's $99 if you buy the OEM version.
Yeah, and I mean, it's for most people, unless you're trying to connect to a domain, it's all you need. I mean, I don't recommend spending any more money than what you would.
Jeff, you want to tear off that front?
Premium.
The plastic, that's the best part. Tearing off that.
I don't know. Sometimes I like leaving that stuff on.
No,
I still have the tags on my couch.
Oh, wow.
Rocking it Belle Biv DeVoe style.
Wow. You're not supposed to remove those by law, you know.
No, I don't mean those tags. I mean like the features of this couch tags.
Scotch Guard.
Like it was a starter hat with the starter tag still on it, like that.
You know, Mini Pearl originated that back in the day.
So you'll need to restart the PC actually, so it will detect.
I just did.
And you want to get into the BIOS, you can change the boot drive.
We don't have to do that. It's just gonna be right there. I bet we don't even have to go into the BIOS.
Things you want to do first when you're setting up PC, get rid of the splash screen on your BIOS so you can actually see it booting.
Watch that.
Oh, we're starting Windows right now.
And now it's starting Windows install.
Well, why don't we take a call while we're doing this Windows stuff
calls?
here? Yeah.
Exciting.
Is it Matt from London?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, I want to know what you think about getting a solid state drive just for purely the OS and SATA 3 versus SATA 6 with solid state.
Thanks for your question. That is exactly what I do. I have a pair of SATA drives rated for my OS. It is awesome because my OS boots in like 5-10 seconds. It is crazy fast. On the other hand, I am always out of space on that drive, and it is an enormous pain in the ass.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, RAID always seems somewhat attractive, but I want as much space as possible, and you know, kind of losing half the space or whatever and doing that stuff just always seems like
it's a little bit of an inconvenience when you have like, even if you move all your documents and your media files to a secondary hard drive, because they're on separate drives,
it's never
the copy
quite
and paste never works right. You can't really get the cut if you want to move files, and your desktop is going to be on your primary hard drive, and that's where I keep most of my temporary files and my temporary downloads, and so that's just I just run out of space. Like, oh damn.
Well, you can move all that stuff onto the secondary hard drive, which is what I did, but then you eventually hit a period in time where there's just no more room on that base drive, because 160 gigs, 250 gigs isn't that much for like a big gaming rig, especially. Because I mean, you're looking at games these days. StarCraft was like 12 gigs, and I mean, StarCraft wasn't a huge game. Some of these big shooters are really
around
huge.
that size.
I mean, even Team Fortress is like 10, 12 gigs these days because
all
of
those
so much
hats.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, each hat is a half a gigabyte. I mean, somebody at Valve should really work on compressing hats.
They want the hats to look as good as they possibly can, and they're not going to make sacrifices on hats just for you and your space concerns.
I just don't want to have that much space on my hard drive for hats.
Fair enough.
So when after you install Windows, something you want to keep in mind is it'll ask you for your activation key. I never type in my activation key until after everything is installed and I've maybe even imaged the drive.
Yeah, because if you're making changes,
if you're changing into the hardware, then it's going to think you're installing it on multiple computers. And once you get to the desktop, you're probably not going to be able to connect to the internet because it won't have your motherboard chipset drivers. That's why you want to keep the DVD, CD from your motherboard box or download it, put it on a USB key, get the latest version, your chipset drivers, install it that way so you have the newest version, and then you'll connect to the internet, and then you get everything from there.
I'm upside down mousing on my leg. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. So if you're building upgrading an old machine, putting Windows on a machine that you already have stuff on a hard drive, it is an awesome idea to make sure that you don't plug that hard drive in while you're doing the install, so that you can't accidentally wipe it at the next phase, which is what we're getting ready to do.
Always do custom.
Okay, so this has unallocated space. We have like 1.3 terabytes empty, or sorry, 1.8 terabytes empty, which is what a 2 terabyte drive is because of
formats do
8 bits versus
numbers
10 bits or whatever. I don't know.
Math.
Yeah, we're not going to do drive. I mean, we can go in here and see what's here, but basically, this is where you make partitions and stuff like that. We're just using one giant ass partition, so we can just go.
You look at that free space and go, dude.
Yeah, you just basically. For the Windows 7 install, if you're making one big partition, you only have one hard drive in the machine, all you have to do is just keep mashing enter. And eventually you get to this part. Can come back 20 or 30 minutes later and it's done.
All right.
You'll have Windows.
Hey, Ryan from Indiana's on the line. Ryan, how you doing?
Yeah, I was just wondering, how many PCs have you guys messed up in the process of making them? And if you had to fix them, how much really did it cost?
Like lifetime? How many? That's a good question, Ryan. Thanks for calling. How many pieces have you messed up, Jeff?
Like messed up by my active actions?
Yeah.
Or, probably only like 2 I could think of where I...
You always remember the first one.
Yeah.
You messed up. The first PC you built.
There are definitely cases where I bent pins until they were bent off and horrible stuff like that.
That's bad.
Yeah. And that was always a nightmare. I broke an arcade machine once that way. Using a butter knife to put ROM chips in and peel them out and stuff, because it's like who has proper
who has a ROM popper?
Exactly.
Yeah, I do actually, but
really,
that would Yeah, I think I killed a couple of hard drives mostly by dropping. I don't think I've ever actually killed a machine to the point that it wasn't repairable. Yeah. I think I ran at Max PC when I was new there. I ran an Athlon 64 machine. One of the first ones with a socket again, without a cooler on, and this was before they throttled down when they got hot.
Right.
That one I destroyed.
Those Thunderbirds.
Yeah, but it was a work machine, so
whatever.
It all ended up working out in the end.
Yeah.
Norm, how many have you killed?
I think bad RAM. I've had experience with bad RAM.
Well, I mean that happens.
And I mean just like bad motherboards. Where the worst thing is when you get everything installed and it doesn't post, and you got to go bit by bit.
Yeah, and sit there and try and figure out why.
If it's the motherboard, then that's the one you're hoping it's not, because that means you have to redo everything. And that just sucks.
Well, the one thing that most of the time I've experienced when we've had problems with machines with stability or whatever after install, the main culprit is usually memory. So even if you buy memory from a good company, sometimes you'll get a bum chip. It happened to Gary last year when he built his machine. It's really important to look at the memory compatibility list for your motherboard. They'll actually, a good motherboard vendor will have a list of not just vendors but also individual SKUs that they recommend for that particular board. I mean, that's why we used this.
I've dropped CPUs in water. And
really?
Then have it dried and worked.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I was doing something similar to this, like writing an article about how to build a PC.
Yeah.
And went and got all the parts, and we sat there and tried to build all the parts, and actually never got it to post.
Wow.
And then, well, I mean, we all got laid off before the article could run.
Oh, okay, so it worked out.
So it ended up working out just fine, and I took half the parts and all that stuff.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
I mean, the important thing is not to panic if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point in my life, I've probably built 1,500 machines for people. I've got a lot of practice with this, right? It doesn't always go right, even when you when you've done this a lot and you're an expert. So the important thing is not panic. Start by isolating the problems. Disconnect all the drives. If you have another video card, it's a good idea to swap that out and try a different one. Pull one stick of memory out. Of course, do this all when the machine's off. But pull one stick of memory out, try that one, then try another stick in a different slot. Do as much as you can to isolate the different problems, and that will help you figure out exactly what's going on. And then once you figure out which part is which, the hard part is figuring out which part is which, because if you call the vendors, then the motherboard guy will say it's the video card guy will say it's the CPU guy will say it's the memory, and you'll just kind of be frustrated and send the whole thing back to new A.
All PCs need to boot CPU, motherboard, RAM, one stick of RAM, and video card.
And a video card. And if you have a machine that has onboard video, then you can just plug straight into that.
Oh, right.
And I mean, that almost always works. I've never had onboard video not. I mean, it's never good,
but it
also
at least does
works.
something.
Yeah.
For the Sandy Bridge ones, those are the H series motherboards, H67s.
Well, why don't we talk to Jeff from Atlanta? Got him on the line. How you doing?
Hey, good.
Hey, Jeff.
You got a
I was
question
wondering
for
what kind of rig you guys use for TNT and quick looks.
What kind of raid we use for TNT?
Rig.
Rig.
I don't remember what that piece. I did not build that.
It's the one that Brad built.
It's the one that he just threw all the parts in the box and then shook it, and it came out of PC.
It's been working great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't have the specs for that machine off the top of my head.
Isn't that similar to the machine that he built for himself later?
Yes.
So it's a Core i5 something. It's the last gen i5, not Sandy Bridge.
All right, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, I think it's i5 860.
Any chance for Chloe to appear?
She's around. I don't. She's probably hooked to my desk still, if I recall.
Not getting dog hair in my case.
Yeah, she's gonna come over and look.
I already got a bunch of wheel hair in it.
There's the same color.
Beard
cool.
shedding.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. Yeah, we're actually we're building it. It's a good time also because we actually built a similar PC as our new test bed for video card benchmarks for the new generation of video cards. Oh my goodness, I forgot what I was talking about.
Is that Matt Rory molesting my dog? Isn't there a restraining order for him?
No, if anything, it's the opposite. It's a unrestraining order where
dog
he has
catnip?
to be near. Yes, exactly.
Internet famous Chloe Bananas.
Yes, everybody go. I posted that video on YouTube. 2 million views. Actually, get the 2 million views on Tested first, then YouTube.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Watch it here twice, then there once.
Submit it to Perez Hilton for me. I don't. I have too much pride to do that.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
You got any more questions or?
Yeah. Well, how are you feeling?
I feel pretty good.
What's the first thing you're gonna play on this?
You know, I'm gonna start reinstalling all the music stuff, which is a gigantic chore because there's so many plugins and everything that goes with that, and that stuff just gets scattered all over the place every time.
Yeah.
So.
Like Reason and stuff like that, or
like
more...
FL Studio,
okay.
Sample Tank, and all these different things that just have to get back on there, just so I can get my workflow back, and all the existing projects will start to work again. That's always a real hassle. And then I'll probably just I'll get Steam on there and just start reinstalling stuff,
downloading like mad.
Yeah, exactly. You go through that whole process where like now I want to see how this runs, now I want to see how this runs. So it's like I'm sure I'll get Black Ops again, and I'll probably
you're gonna bust out Crysis.
Yeah,
I mean,
I will probably.
You just want to see. You want to shoot some trees.
This will run Crysis, right?
You'll be able to run the Crysis at native resolution on this.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gonna look. It's gonna be the best looking 3-year-old game you've ever seen.
Right. I mean, Crysis 2 is out next week, so
yeah, you gotta get warmed up.
Kind of see if that's any good or not.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Windows has installed. It's just rebooting right now, and we are pretty much done.
Cool.
Can you believe it?
Okay.
Super
I think we have
simple.
time for one more call. I don't know if you want to give us a call. It's 415-508. 3975?
3975.
I'm going to remember this eventually. It's real close.
The worst part is once you remember it, you will never forget it for the rest of your life, and you're going to be like spouting this number off while like as a crazy person
trying to call my wife from jail.
My lottery number is.
Yeah.
And then Vinny will pick up and
415.
be like, I don't know you, man.
Bail me out, man. I've been the slammer.
We had to let Will go. We got too crazy. Just started spouting the phone number and wander around the office.
Hey, so James from Germany is here. He'd like to talk to us about prison or computers, one or the other. James, how you doing? Oh,
German James.
Hey, sorry.
Watching
your live stream.
Please turn down your computer.
I know that Tested like to have some trivia about where people live. I'm living in Darmstadt, and I can see Castle Frankenstein out my window.
Awesome.
So some trivia. I'm considering building a PC again soon. I haven't done that since about the age of cartridges like Jeff.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking is if I build a PC to run on a 720p television rather than a monitor, what are my chances of making that last a couple of years instead of just having to upgrade the video cards every 3 or 4? Because my PlayStation just blew up.
That's a good question. If you're just running a 720p set, I mean, that's 1280 by 720.
Right.
If you build this machine, hook that up to the 720p set, I mean, we can't look into the future, but I would be stunned if you're not still able to play games on that 3 years, 4 years from now, without any kind of upgrades at all. So that's a great question.
You'll get Battlefield 3 looking pretty nice at 720.
At 720, yeah, certainly.
60 FPS maybe.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your call and the trivia. It's always good. Castle Frankenstein, huh?
Wow.
Yeah.
I can
see
that's freaky.
A
and
lake.
with Windows on the cusp of installed here, I guess that'll wrap it up for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, should we show the sides going back on? Do you think that's an unnecessary formality?
No, no. People saw the case before we put stuff in it.
Yeah. So they should see. Why not?
Okay.
Slap the sides on here. There you go. There's that side. I'll get this side. I feel like it's not really
bottom
a build.
first or
no. So this one looks like it's
front first.
It looks like it goes in flat and then slide.
Okay.
So Yeah, get it in flat and then side. And it looks like if you wanted to get some crazy cooling, you could pull this these big pads off the side. And this might have been a mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have done this on the TV. Might be something best done in the privacy of your own home.
How this works?
I'm scared and confused.
Again, building a PC, super easy.
Anybody can do it.
Anyone can do it. All you need is, hands and a screwdriver. Eyes, maybe.
Eyes are important.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've done it blindfolded.
Yeah, so you don't even need eyes. PC, really 8 parts. Case, CPU, motherboard, video card, RAM, hard drive, optical drive, and power supply.
Absolutely. And I mean, not all PCs are the same as this, but the basic ideas remain the same. I mean, basically, the places you can mess up are CPU, putting it into the actual case with the motherboard standoffs. Everything else is really, really straightforward. It's just almost like Legos, putting stuff into the blocks, making sure it goes together.
And everything's keyed pretty much. I mean, it seems really hard to put cables in the wrong spot now.
I mean, the key thing is just not to force. I mean, there's a couple places you have to use a little bit of pressure, but for the most part, just don't push too hard and everything will be fine. It's really easy.
Good advice for life.
We spec this out, be exactly $1,500. If you wanted to cut it down to $1,000, very possible.
Yeah.
I would say instead of 2 terabyte hard drive, 1 terabyte hard drive, instead of
Cheaper
2,500K, definitely get like a $70 case instead of $110. With the processor, go with 2,500 as opposed to the 2,500K. Don't need the overclock. Video card, go with the 560 Ti as opposed to the 570. And with all those cuts, and maybe motherboard, go save $20.
What about speakers, Norm?
Non-pro.
Speakers, monitor. I mean, we don't count speakers.
We don't count speakers, monitors.
We figure you're going to use that
you
stuff.
Probably have speakers, have headphones, have monitors, but all those cuts will get you down to $1,000.
Cool. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I'm Will from Tested.
I'm Norm from Tested.
I'm Jeff from Giant Bomb.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.